explaining his actions.
Last night was the BT Awards, and right now, it's something on my mind. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, I want to start by saying, I am not upset at Taraji P. Henson by any stretch of the imagination.
Taji came out and said his ego was hurt, but honestly, I never had any issue with her. If anything, I thought she'd understand that my frustration was directed at the production team, not at her. We were both in the same situation, standing there, looking at the teleprompter together. I knew it wasn't her fault, it was just something that happened in the moment. I really expected her to see that I wasn't coming from a place of blame or criticism. I wasn't trying to attack her at all. For the first time since that unfortunate viral moment at the last BET Awards, Keith Lee has finally broken his silence about what really went down that night. And let me tell you, Keith is done holding back. Not only did he call out Taraji P. Henson for being shady and attempting to damage his brand, but he also had some harsh words for the entire BET Awards production team, slamming them for their unprofessional handling of the event. For those who might miss the drama, here's the full scoop. Grab a seat, and let me break it down for you. The 2024 BET Awards will definitely go down in history as one of the most talked about events in recent years. The buzz was intense, especially since it happened right after Taraji P. Henson's highly publicized feud with Oprah. We all remember when rumors swirled about Taraji possibly getting blacklisted. Despite the controversy, many celebrities stood firmly by her side. Just a few weeks later, she was back hosting the BET Awards for the third year in a row. Things really took off when Taraji went viral on social media during the ceremony. One of Taraji's blunders ended up being one of the most talked about moments of the night. It all started during the show when she did a bit where she handed out flowers to celebrate people's achievements. While working the crowd, she walked up to the front of the audience, but there was some kind of mix-up. She gave the flower meant for Keith to Jordan instead. Midway through their banter, Jordan pointed toward Keith, trying to signal that Taraji had mixed things up. Realizing her mistake, she quickly turned to Keith and asked Jordan to pass the flowers to Keith, realizing her mix-up. Taraji apologized and tried to play it off with a lighthearted joke. The cameras zoomed in on Keith as he received the flowers, and he put on a polite act, pretending everything was fine. However, once the cameras moved away, things took a different turn. In a now deleted TikTok video, Keith shared a clip of himself tossing the flower onto the floor, adding a caption that read, "Our name will be known in every room when it's meant to be, how it's meant to be," hinting at deeper feelings about the incident. The truth is, you can't control how someone reacts when they feel disrespected. Even though Taraji apologized to Keith after realizing her mistake, he was still upset because the whole situation came off as if he wasn't well known or important. And honestly, he had every right to feel the way he did. The video of Keith dropping the flowers sparked a buzz online, with people debating the incident. A few hours later, he took to TikTok, posting a video explaining his side of the story and shedding light on why he reacted the way he did. Hours after Keith posted his TikTok video, Taraji responded on her Instagram page. She addressed the situation, saying life's too short for this kind of behavior. He wasn't in his assigned seat. They give celebrities specific seats, and I rehearsed all day to hit my mark. That young man wasn't where he was supposed to be, so he missed his moment. His ego is hurt, but he'll be fine. I even cleaned it up at the end of the show. No love lost here. Keith Lee opened up during an interview at Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay, where he finally spoke his truth about what went down at the BET Awards. According to Keith, he had deliberately stayed quiet about the incident because he wanted the buzz to die down. He explained that he only felt compelled to address the situation if it affected his family or his restaurant business. During the interview, Shannon Sharpe brought up the controversy with Taraji P. Henson, asking, "You did run into some controversy with Taraji P. Henson, let's talk about it. What happened?" Keith responded thoughtfully, "These are things I've never talked about publicly because I always want my family to be the focus, not unnecessary drama." He made it clear that protecting his loved ones and maintaining his business's reputation were his top priorities. Keith continued, saying, "I like for the restaurant to be the main focus. The only time I speak on things is when I feel like it's starting to affect my family or the money I bring in to support them." He then shared his initial hesitation about attending the BET Awards, even though he and his family had been given front row tickets. "We had front row tickets. We had the red carpet, all of that. But I told her beforehand, the love that why all say you have for me, it's always tied to negativity when my name comes up on BET. It's never anything positive." Keith explained how the constant association with negativity made him skeptical about attending in the first place. Keith expressed his frustration, saying, "The love that why all say you have for us, I don't feel it. When y'all mention us or bring us up, it's always the most negative thing you can talk about. It's always the drama, never the good stuff. Like you never hear about us going to a restaurant and being blessed enough to help thousands of people who were about to lose their jobs because the place was about to close. Or anything that's truly positive. I'd say 90% of what we do is positive, but 10% of the time it's the drama. Keith went on to talk about how the organization of the BET Awards was a mess. He mentioned how getting to the event was chaotic, with tickets not being readily available for part of his team. Keith revealed that he and his wife were assigned front row seats, with his seat directly behind DC Young Fly. However, in the middle of the show, someone from production walked up and told him they were going to switch his seat because they were moving to a segment where they planned to hand out flowers. Keith continued, so we were sitting behind DC Young Fly, but originally our seats were next to an older guy. The whole section was pretty rowdy, but me and him were having a great time, chatting and laughing together. I told him, don't worry about my wife standing up, we're good here, just enjoying the show. We were having a blast, really vibing with the whole atmosphere. Then, about halfway through the show, someone from BET or production walks up and says, Keith went on. So this person comes up and says, hey, we're about to switch your seats because we're doing a segment where we're giving people their flowers. Now, keep in mind, I had just spoken to BET an hour earlier and told them you don't have to move me, I'm good right here. I'm enjoying talking and hanging out with Dr. Bobby Jones, who we were sitting next to. I was more than thankful just to be there, but they insisted, saying, no, we're moving you to the front. Keith continued, they told me we want to give you your flowers, we really want to highlight you. But here's the thing, the reason behind that video of me throwing the rose on the floor wasn't about blaming Taraji. I didn't hold her responsible for the mistake. The issue was with the BET production team as a whole. The whole giving people their flowers segment was a last-minute decision, and Taraji wasn't really prepared for it. Keith went on, so when she came over to us, she immediately walked past me and went straight to Jordan, acting like he was me. I'm over here reading the prompter, which is telling me, give Keith Lee his flowers, blah blah blah. She looks at Jordan and says, I bet you rate this award show 10 out of 10. And Jordan's like, oh no, that's him. Then she realizes her mistake and she quickly says, oh my bad, trying to fix the situation. But this is just another example of how things were being mishandled. Keith continued, there's just a lot going on. So she starts saying stuff like, you look good too, even though my wife is sitting right there. Then she's like, give him his flowers and all this random stuff, and then tells Jordan he looks good too. It was just a bunch of improv, and I'm sitting there thinking, what is happening? After she leaves, me and Jordan just looked at each other like, what just went down? He then shared how the video went viral and explained his reaction to the situation. I opened my phone, literally just 5 seconds after it happened, and boom, my phone is blowing up with notifications. I had no idea the video would blow up the way it did. Keith talked about why he eventually decided to drop the flowers on the floor and why he later deleted the video. Keith went on, I saw all the reactions on Twitter. People were saying Keith Lee looked so embarrassed, his wife looked humiliated, and they kept dragging the situation, making it worse. People were claiming she was flirting in front of my wife, and it just became a whole thing. So I decided to do what I did. I took the rose they gave me and dropped it on the floor. He explained why he made that choice, saying, the reason I dropped it was because the whole time I felt like it wasn't for me. That wasn't what I was meant to be a part of. What was meant for me was to sit where I was sitting and just mind my business. Dropping that rose wasn't about disrespect, it was me showing that this whole thing wasn't right. Keith explained, I was speaking directly to production, telling them, don't do this again. If we're going to come to the show, we should be able to enjoy it the way we talked about online. But they twisted it and saw me dropping the rose and immediately assumed it was all about disrespecting Taraji. They turned it into this whole thing where it seemed like I was targeting her. He then shared why he decided to take the video down. I took the video down because I'm a supporter of Black women, and I'm a supporter of us as a people. To see her on stage doing her thing the way she did, I didn't want my actions to overshadow that or add to any unnecessary drama. Keith explained, I took the video down specifically because of that. I wasn't trying to make things worse, especially since my intentions got misunderstood. He also addressed his disappointment with Taraji's comment, explaining, she came out and said, yeah, his ego was hurt, but the whole time I'm thinking, Taraji, I didn't have any issue with you. I wasn't mad at you. If anything, I thought she should have understood that I was talking directly to production, not her. I knew the situation and we were in it together. We were both looking at the prompter, so I didn't blame her for the mix-up. Keith went on to explain, we were in this together. We were both looking at the prompter, so I understand it wasn't anything she did on purpose. It was just one of those spur-of-the-moment things. I hoped she'd understand that I wasn't coming from a place of attacking her. He continued, but it is what it is. I still have love for Taraji. Sources close to Keith revealed that out of respect for her, he chose not to discuss his feelings about Taraji publicly, especially on camera. However, when the cameras were off, once the cameras stopped rolling, Keith didn't hold back, criticizing Taraji for her comments, saying she should have known better. He emphasized that he had no ill feelings toward her. A source close to him revealed that Keith felt Taraji intentionally set him and his brand up for public backlash, stating that her comments hurt his reputation. He believed her actions were similar to how she had been mistreated by Oprah, but Keith wasn't done there. He also took aim at the production team of the BET Awards, blasting them for what he described as an unprofessional show. Keith shared how everything seemed to go wrong that night, starting with the late arrival of tickets and continuing with a series of mistakes that seemed like amateur hour from the production team. Keith didn't hold back in expressing his frustrations about the lack of coordination at the BET Awards, especially with the last-minute decision to hand out flowers, which led to the viral moment. He made it clear that while he was still open to working with BET, they would need to improve and operate more professionally moving forward. In my opinion, Keith had every right to be upset with both Taraji P. Henson and the BET production team. He seems like a guy who genuinely wants to stay out of the drama and only show up when it's necessary. It also seemed like Taraji could have handled things better. Her comment about Keith's ego being hurt was unnecessary and in hindsight could have been avoided to prevent the situation from spiraling. Keith Lee's response to Taraji P. Henson's comments definitely sparked a lot of conversation, with fans expressing their support for him and his family. Many agreed that he seems like a genuinely kind and peaceful person, and they appreciate how he handled the situation with maturity and thoughtfulness. Fans also felt that his frustration was justified, especially given the lack of professionalism he experienced from both Taraji and the BET production team. As for whether Keith should let it go, it's understandable if he feels the need to speak up, especially when his reputation and brand were impacted by the way things went down. It's clear that he values respect, and when it wasn't shown, he had every right to voice his concerns. However, over time, moving on might bring peace for him and his family. Ultimately, it's up to Keith to decide when he feels like he's ready to let go and focus on the positive. What do you think? Do you believe Keith's anger is justified, or should he move on?